And up next is Business News with Tolu Lokwe-Ogujobi. Tolu, what's new in the world of business?
As always, a lot of new things happening, but let's start with the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, who says government's revenue rose to 6.9 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2025. Mr. Edun made this known during a stakeholders' engagement on implementing President Bola Tinubu's priorities for the second quarter, which held in Abuja. He said the figure is higher than the 5.2 trillion naira recorded in the previous quarter, marking a 40% increase. According to him, increased transparency and openness in revenue collection and remittance contributed significantly to improve earnings. The minister noted that in the first quarter of 2025, Nigeria realized 6.9 trillion naira, which is up from 5.2 trillion naira in the same period last year. He explained that the 40% increase is largely due to recent adjustments, including those related to exchange rate value. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Ports Authority is projecting a 1.2 trillion naira revenue for the 2025 fiscal year, which is 40% higher than 865 billion naira of 2024. Managing Director of NPA, Mr. Abubakar Dantosho, made this known during the authority's 2025 budget defense before the Senate committees on marine transport in Abuja. Mr. Dantosho, in his presentation of the performance index of revenue generated by the agency in 2024 and the proposal for 2025, said the NPA remitted 400 billion naira into the consolidated revenue fund in 2024. According to him, the figure almost doubled the remittance made by the agency in 2023. The NPA boss said the agency revenue projection for 2025 fiscal year is 1.27 trillion naira, which is about 40% higher than 865 billion naira projected in 2024. Chairman of the committee, Senator Wasiu Shiloko, urged the NPA to ramp up performance, improve port infrastructure. Meanwhile, global markets surged today following President Donald Trump's announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. However, the impact of the conflicts continues across the world, with Nigeria sharing the effects. Finance analyst Mr. Bolao Olojede says rising crude oil prices could boost federal government's revenue, potentially helping to achieve budget targets. Let's hear more from him, who was a guest on our Business Nigeria program.
It's a blessing and a curse in a way. Blessing because government revenue will go up. Now, one of the scares we have expressed in the current year was the fact that our budget was at $75, oil was selling at much lower, maybe even much, maybe like $60 at some point. You know, now we are around our budget price, so that is good. If it goes further up, it means we're talking of making much more money from that. Now, that has a very positive implication for government revenue, and it has a very strong positive implication for stability of the naira. So the earnings from crude oil remains a major stabilizer for our foreign exchange because it represents a chunk of the supply of foreign exchange for Nigeria. The flip side, however, is that as prices go up, so will the price of the refined product also go up. Crude is the largest cost component of the refined PMS and all the other components that come from refined crude oil. So when the price of that component goes up, the price of the refined product automatically goes up as well.
Global shares rallied and the dollar extended declines today as a ceasefire to end a 12-day war between Iran and Israel came into effect. Risk assets rallied with S&P 500 futures up 0.6%, Nasdaq futures 0.9% higher, Euro Stock 50 futures jumped 1.5%, and FTSE futures rose 0.4%. The MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan jumped 2.2%, while Japan's Nikkei rallied 1.3%. China's blue chip rose 1.2%. Hong Kong Hang Seng gained 1.8%. News of a ceasefire saw the dollar extend an overnight retreat and slip 0.5% to 145.43 yuan, having come off a 6 weeks high of 148 yuan overnight. The euro rose 0.2% to $1.16, having gained 0.5% overnight. And to our next report now. New data from the Malaysian Department of Statistics shows that the country's leading index for April maintained its positive annual growth at a rate of 0.5%, registering 113.6 points compared to 113 points in the same month of the previous year. Now, the department said in a statement that the month saw double-digit increases in real imports of semiconductors and the number of new companies. Simultaneously, the monthly performance of the leading index recorded an increase for the second consecutive month, with 0.8% supported by a 0.5% rise in the number of new companies registered. Regarding the current economic performance, the coincident index posted an annual uptrend of 1%, reaching 126.7 points in April, compared to 125.4 points in the same month of the previous year. The Statistics Office says the growth is driven by utilization in manufacturing. British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has pledged to meet a new NATO target to spend 5% of the UK's GDP on national security by 2035. At a summit in the Netherlands, 32 NATO members, countries including the UK, are expected to agree to the 5% goal, with 3.5% to go on core defense and the remaining 1.5% on defense-related areas. The split target is aimed at placating US President Donald Trump, who has urged NATO allies to spend more while giving cash-strapped EU countries flexibility on how to meet the target. Speaking ahead of a two-day summit, Mr. Keir now said the UK had to navigate this era of radical uncertainty with agility, speed, and clear-eyed sense of national interest. Only 23 NATO countries currently meet defense spending target of 2% of their GDP. The recent closure of Qatar's airspace has left numerous passengers, including those traveling with Qatar Airlines, stranded or facing difficulties. Some passengers and their families are reportedly stuck in Saudi Arabia, attempting to transit through Doha. Qatar Airways is working diligently to assist affected passengers, including those with connecting flights. Travelers are experiencing challenges in rebooking or cancelling flights and causing further disruptions. The airline is prioritizing passenger support amidst this complex situation.